Welcome back to Adobe Live. I'm Jasmine and we are live at 99U in New York. And I am here with Amy Kleinerman. She is the principal UX designer at Symphony and also the lead mentorship at Hexagon. And she's going to tell us about all of her amazing experiences and accolades that she's been doing. And we're really excited to have you.
Yeah, I'm excited to be able to speak.
Yeah. How's it been at 99U so far? How are you feeling about the talks?
The talks have been awesome.
Yeah.
Actually, one of the talks this morning addressed accessibility, which I was super excited about because I got basically deputized to do accessibility from the design end at work.
Nice.
And it was a total roller coaster, but now I'm really excited about it because I'm like, there's other people doing it.
Yes. This is the place to make those connections and hear these stories so we all know that we're in this together. So let's jump into it. So you are a UX designer.
Yes.
And I think a lot of people want to learn more about that, but like more specifically, tell us about how you plan to build that UX community and how you're doing that in your current roles with Symphony, and then of course we can get into what you're doing with mentorship in Hexagon.
Yeah, so in my current roles, as a principal designer at Symphony, as like a tiny bit of background, I started out, working in an e-commerce agency.
Wow.
And over the last 10 years, I've moved up to being a principal designer. And thinking about who else helped me get there was really important, and how I wanted to pay it forward in that regard, both leading in design at my company and leading in design in the community. And more importantly, leading in design in the community.
Yes.
There's the mentorship aspect. So my good friends Mary and Natalie founded the Hexagon mentorship program. And the beauty of it is that it filled a real need to connect women in UX, designers, researchers, writers, who needed and wanted mentorship, and a lot of people were asking for mentorship, and help them find mentors who were really going to suit them and give them guidance to help further their careers and build that.
Yeah.
And so as the mentorship lead, it's kind of my job to shepherd the program, to communicate it to all the chapters around the world. Now we have chapters in the Bay Area, London, New York, Seattle, Houston, Denver.
Oh wow.
There's a few others too, and I apologize to anyone I've forgotten, but we have a bunch of chapters now. Toronto.
Oh wow. Nice.
So it's international, it's widespread, and everyone's taken this template and really grown it and made it their own, which is so cool to see, because we have this idea, but people adapt it for their own place.
Nice. So, I know you're a UX designer and you've been in the game for 10 plus years, right? So, aside from that, why mentorship in UX? Why is that so important?
Mentorship in UX is so important because I don't think I'd be where I am without all the wonderful people who helped me along the way. And knowing that was informal, and in some ways I feel like I got really lucky. My very first boss, Dave Hogue, who worked on Fireworks ages ago, he took a chance on me and gave me a job, and from there on I've had the opportunity to work on some really cool projects and know some really great people who I could go to for career advice.
And that makes all the difference, right?
Absolutely. But not everyone has that, and particularly not every woman has that.
Yes.
And so giving them that, when they know their goals and they know what they want to achieve next, is a really great way to pay back the community.
So Hexagon focuses on women in UX.
Hexagon focuses on women and non-binary folks in UX across all of the UX disciplines.
Amazing. And so how have you seen your involvement in leading mentorship, going from kind of being behind the scenes as a designer in a lot of your recent roles? How have you seen that progress for you and excel in this new space where you're really kind of you're building a community, but then you're also lending people the skills and giving them the opportunity instead of, being behind the scenes and being the designer. Like, I can imagine those are two completely different outlooks. So how has, what you used to do impacted that in what ways?
Yeah, so in building the program and building the community is in some ways a user experience exercise. What is the experience that we're trying to build, and what are the touch points that we're building in the service, and what is the desired result we want to get? And so measuring our activities and success against that is absolutely, part design, part research, part writing, part everything, but all UX.
Very cool. I read somewhere that you get really excited about designing for enterprise. Tell us about that. I don't hear that being tossed around often.
No, enterprise is like the least sexy.
Yeah.
I feel like kind of design specialization you could have.
Yeah.
And I blame some of that on designing for e-commerce to start, and a lot of it I blame on my 3 years working on Adobe Target, formerly Omniture Test and Target, building A/B testing software and getting really excited about that. Exactly. And then now I work on like financial chat software. So what I love about it is working on really complex problems. And it's not to say that e-commerce, not e-commerce, but consumer problems aren't complex.
Right.
But there's just different levels of complexity, and there's different stakeholders that you're taking to account, and kind of knowing that you have an audience that you're going to sell to that's different from the end user base is a tough nut to crack.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I mean, I think a lot of people love being their own boss and being the freelancer, being able to work with clients that, they love and trust, and, just having that flexibility and being able to choose. But then there's people who are just like very disciplined and excel in that environment where they can kind of approach any business or any person, and if they're given a task, they can just execute and plan accordingly. And I honestly admire those people, because I wish I was that disciplined. I get very I want to do my things, and I think a lot of us go back and forth between that. So what's kind of your secret to owning that and developing those skills?
Oh my goodness.
It's hard, right?
I don't know if there's one secret. One big secret
That's okay.
is...
We want all the secrets.
I mean, there's listening, there's just asking a ton of questions. Knowing why you're solving the problem is really important, because, some of my friends talk about, rightly so, you have a... Not a problem with that answer, but you've come up with an answer without actually knowing the problem.
The problem, yeah.
Whereas, you have to know that you're solving the right question before you move on. And sometimes we get into this cycle where we're like, no, I have this perfect answer. It was answering a question no one was asking.
Right. It's like you came up with that answer for a hypothetical question, or maybe non-existing question.
Because it was cool, and because it was cool was okay. But also, I think the beauty of enterprise is that we're trying to find a market, and there's... In the end, I mean, kind of not sexy, but it comes down to what can we sell, and what's going to really be a worthwhile service for a big company to get behind.
Totally. So circling back to mentorship, what do you think makes a good mentor as far as design, or being a mentor for some type of design discipline? Because I think mentorship, the idea of that is very different for different disciplines, different skill sets, different types of people. So how do you tailor that for a UX designer, specifically a female non-binary designer trying to scale up or just level up in their role, or start a business? How do you build that program?
So what we really look for in mentors are people, both men, women, non-binary, what have you. But in our mentors, we look for folks who unequivocally support our audience. So they're absolutely on our team. No creepy, no nothing. That's really important.
Yes.
But they have to be on our team.
Yeah.
And then what we look for is our mentors really know themselves. They know their own skill set and are confident in that, and they know what they're good at, and then they know what they're able to mentor in and what they can teach.
Absolutely.
And so then our mentees can come in and say, this is what I'm working toward, these are my goals. And We want them to have good goals, and then we do speed dating to match them up.
Oh, I like that. That's
yeah,
cool.
I know. You haven't done speed dating in a professional context because and we do speed dating. They speed date to match them up, and generally what they find is they click.
Right.
You know the person with whom you really have a connection, and that's what we're looking for. So there's no magic formula for how people get paired, except we tell them know who you're know what you're looking for and have an idea, and then look for that spark in that moment, just like you would in any other relationship.
Yeah, and it's totally more real, and the holistic approach and really pairing someone that has similar goals, similar ambitions, that can really kind of guide you through what those steps are going to look like for whatever the end game is. I think that's totally important, because you can't just stick somebody who have conflicting personalities. It might not work. So I think it's essential to take close details to those aspects when mentorship is in the picture, for sure. I think we should address the chat. I think people are getting wild. Hi Voodoo Val. Hi Lindsay, Richard. Does anybody have any questions? Let's see. Is it only for women? No, so this program's for women and non-binary.
So our events are absolutely open to men and women.
Yes.
And the mentorship program is specifically for women in the UX field, but our mentors are both men and women. But what's most important is that they're absolutely supportive of women in these fields.
Absolutely. Voodoo Val says, I'm really loving how personal and emotional the connection is between the mentor and the mentee sounds. It feels like developing a friendship.
Yeah, in a lot of ways it is. Like, I think there's still a lot of a professional aspect to it. But what we really are aiming for is that you have a continued connection with this person after the program's over, because you were matched so well.
Yeah.
But at the very least, over the course of a 12-week program, you're really working on the goals that you set out for us, and we want you to be able to achieve that within that time.
Totally. I think, why don't you tell us more about Symphony?
Yeah. So Symphony is very, very enterprisey. It is, for lack of a better word, it's an enterprise chat application with end-to-end security. But for everyone else who has no idea what it is, think of a very secure version of Slack, which I hate to say, but it's the easiest way to explain it.
I mean, that helped me visualize exactly what it was, so that's perfect.
Yeah, with a lot of other features that are really built currently toward financial markets, but the idea is you can expand to any secure kind of business, anything that requires absolute end-to-end security.
So you must have a very interesting work-life balance, juggling being a principal designer at Symphony, and then also what you're doing at Hexagon. So
and having an 8-month-old.
Oh my goodness, she's a superwoman, y'all.
The truth about you can't have it all is real, but you try your best. And what I think is so interesting over time is that I was talking to my husband about this yesterday. Is that when you're just starting out in anything, you're very limited because you're learning everything as you go.
Yeah.
And the more confident you get in all of those skills, the more they become second nature, and the more you unintentionally, I think, add on to that. And so by the time you get to this place, you're suddenly going, the you of 5-10 years ago is going, how do you do that?
Right.
But it's because you're adding onto your skills and your competencies just over time and not realizing how far you're coming.
Earlier we talked about how UX isn't new. It's not like a new role in design, but now it's in the past 3 to 5 years, it's become really sexy, and a lot of people are seeking after those careers. So what is your comments on that? Like, for someone who's been doing it for quite a while, and to see it finally shed light and get more or less the respect that a lot of people have felt for a while. Like, what's your take on that?
I'm really, really happy that UX is getting some of the spotlight now. The upside is everyone wants a UX designer. We have jobs, yay. But the some of the downside is that people are asking for UX without really knowing what it is.
Yes.
And so for
We
a
should
lot
tell
of
them right now,
Right.
just to clear the air.
user experience design
Yes, just let them know.
is coming up, with the, well, I mean, it kind of speaks for itself, but it's the entire experience end to end of how someone uses your product. But also, there can be a user experience for admin sites.
Yes.
And user experience for other things, and user experiences that you can't see.
Right, it's
so
not all customer facing.
Right, and it's not all just like web apps and screens either. It's so much bigger, but when you first get into it, you're like web apps and screens and mobile devices.
Yes.
And it's bigger than that. I mean, when I was getting in, like, mobile devices were barely a thing, and now they're huge. And so building that out and seeing that over time, it's been so cool to see how it's developed. And for senior people in the field, it's our job to kind of evangelize what it is and speak up for that. And for young people or people getting into the field, both, some of them tend to be young, but not all. The challenge is being able to speak the language that we're all speaking as UX designers, while also, having your resume reflect, because your recruiters may not know, what exactly they're looking for. They may be scanning based off the screener, which is different than what the hiring manager is actually looking for.
Yes.
And sometimes it takes persistence. Like, getting through is not easy.
Yeah.
But knowing that you have a community there to help you, and that, I mean, Hexagon's one of those communities, Adobe's another one of those, is really important, because it goes a long way toward asking, well, what do you think I'm doing wrong, and how can we fix that? And those little questions you don't always need like a big scale mentor for, and that that one-on-one mentorship really comes into play when you're in your first job and you're having going, where do I go next?
Yes.
Breaking into one thing, moving up is the next.
Yeah, and that's so important to have, because then you're able to visualize like what your goals and your path is, and you don't feel like you're stuck and you don't have a clear understanding of what you're supposed to be doing, what problems you're supposed to be solving.
And the hope is someone else has been there before.
Yeah, and that can guide you.
Exactly.
Seems like a lot of people in the chat resonate with this. So I would say, for someone who is either trying to apply for a position, what are the things that you think they should highlight in their resume or in that first introductory email? Like, what are those key phrases that should turn the wheels for the hiring manager who knows what they're looking for?
I remember I got really good feedback on this one introductory email I sent when I was actually thinking about being a researcher. But it was all about how I got into it. I remember getting into UX, oddly enough we heard Tim Brown speak, but I remember being in class at UC San Diego and watching that 60 minutes video clip of David Kelly and the IDEO clip, and just going, oh my God, I want to do that. Yes. And how do I get to do that? And I decided to take the grad school way, and it's not the only way now, which is really awesome. But how that fits in is saying, okay, there's a million ways to get into this. Pick one, kind of give your perspective on why you did it, and what your goals are, and show your enthusiasm in that intro. It doesn't have to be a stuffy cover letter. Far from it. Like, your authenticity coming out is really important. And then in your resume, like, think about how you've actually like unintentionally designed things in the rest of your life. Like, a lot of people I knew in grad school came into want to be a UX designer because they were already doing it in their previous job. They just didn't know it or didn't have a name for it until then.
Wow.
And so it turns out that everyone's doing, I think, some level of experience design, but when you want to make it a profession, frame your life in terms of that. And then the hardest part is how to get your portfolio together, and that's kind of the third piece. But doing projects on the side, or talking about other things that you've designed, and that's the trickiest one. But it can be done. But I remember I spent a lot of time working on my very first portfolio.
Yeah, I think that's just one of those things you can't avoid. It doesn't even matter what area of design you are. It's just, you have to put in the time, you have to do the research, you have to know what your skills are, what your goals are, and that's just kind of a part of the game. And raising that hand and being picked out of the sea of people, like in New York, it's Yeah.
It turns out most UXers are also perfectionists, which
Yeah.
does not help us get that done.
No, there's got to be a balance. There's got to
Yeah.
be some ethics in there. So we like zoomed through that. We have like 2 minutes. Up next, we have Jesus Ramirez, who is going to be introducing the Adobe Live Daily Creative Challenge, Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge. So we're still designing, even though we're at 99U, we're going to have fun. And Amy, do you have any final words for the people?
Final words for the people. It was so fun being able to be a part of this. And check out the Hexagon website if you're looking for a mentor.
It's floating in the chat somewhere.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Make sure you pin that, put it in your bookmarks. Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much. You guys have a great day.
Bye.